Oh, hello.
Hello, darling.
Hi. Hello,
Hi.
everybody. We're
Hi.
back.
We are back. We just recorded, but I'm leaving for a trip, so we're like back to back recording.
Yeah, Courtney, tell us. You were just telling me off air that you were stressed.
Yeah. Okay, so I for sure procrastinate a little bit. And of course, I have to go to the Miami airport today at 4, and I have like
Why?
some clothes laid out because my flight, we're flying out of Miami.
I thought you were leaving on Tuesday.
No,
You're
girl,
leaving today.
today. Today.
No.
So me and Bella are recording now because I'm going to be gone for like 10 days. I'm going to Dubai and then I'm going to India. So by the time this comes out, I think I'll just be getting back. Um, but yeah. So I have like stuff everywhere. Like I'm like laying out stuff and I'm like, do I want to bring this? Do I not? Just like one of those. But it's okay.
Well, you guys are lucky, and I'm very thankful. I'm sure we're all thankful that you're doing this on the day that you're literally flying across the world.
That's okay. It's not, I mean, it's only 11:40. We have time. And what are we even talking about today, Mel? Like girly chat?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of wanted to pick your brain a little bit selfishly
Yeah.
about tracking your cycle and
Yes.
not getting pregnant while not using birth control, like things
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit selfish, and I'll share with everyone because I've actually had an IUD in, a non hormonal copper IUD in for 10 years.
Yeah.
So when I was 23, I got my IUD put in. Um, And I'll give a little bit of a backstory. I actually tried the birth control pill when I first started having sex, and I was like awful at compliance. I couldn't remember to take a pill every day.
Yeah. That's a lot of people's problem, I feel. Like
Well,
they just forget.
I
And it's
feel like
hard.
you're so young. Like I was in high school, like I wasn't the most responsible teenager, to be honest, and I feel like it's like a lot riding on a young kid remembering to do that.
Yeah.
Um, so I ended up trying, it was like an injection.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah,
I think
yeah.
it was called Depo-Provera.
Okay.
So I had to go every 3 weeks to get an injection, and that it's so funny when you're young. Like now I would do so much research. I would never put anything in my body without like actually understanding and knowing the
Mhm.
mechanisms and what's happening. And
Yeah.
when I
Or
was
like
young,
what the injection even is. Like, is it a
yeah,
bunch of like hormones?
I
Like,
have
what
no
is it
idea.
suppressing? What is it? Yeah. Yeah.
100%. And when you're young, you kind of just like listen to your parents or your doctor. And I mean, I think now because the internet is so like accessible and there's so much information out there, it's different. But when I like 15 years ago, it was not like that for me.
Yeah.
So I don't know what this shot was. I'm assuming it's some form of hormones um, that I was taking. And I'm not even kidding you. I've always been a pretty like level-headed girl. Like I've never really like had PMS or like been like I don't
Yeah.
know. I've always
Yeah.
been pretty chill. I went psychotic.
Yeah.
I did not feel like myself. I was so paranoid. I was so insecure. I remember fighting so much with my boyfriend at the time. I would cry at
Yeah.
nothing, and like that wasn't like me at all. It was really really scary.
You feel like not in control at all.
That
Like
that's how I felt.
things just set you off and you're like,
Mhm,
what the fuck is going on?
mhm.
And it's super out of control. Yeah.
Well, and I didn't really have anyone to talk to about it. I just remember my boyfriend at the time being like, "You're fucking psycho," and like not being supportive at all. And
Yeah.
I didn't even correlate that for a little bit. And then finally I put the two together and I was like, I can't feel like this.
No.
So um I stopped that immediately. I think I only had one injection because I immediately felt like a different human.
Yeah.
Um, and then after that, I really was hesitant to take any sort of like hormonal birth control because I didn't want to go through that again.
Yeah.
So that's when I didn't end up staying with that person. And then when I got into a relationship with Ian, I kind of was like, okay, we need some more serious, like long-term birth control options. And that's when I decided to get the copper IUD put in, which again, I didn't really do very much research.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I feel like you honestly know more about it than me, because you were telling me when I was having those hormonal issues 2
Yeah.
years ago,
Yeah.
you said something about my IUD and I was like, no, it's non hormonal.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you said that you had someone or knew someone or something that had done research because she had one too. And because it is affecting your like uterus and your
Yeah.
cervix, it is
Yes.
going to affect those hormones.
Totally. And I think that's something that people don't understand. Like anything in your body is going to alter it some way, right? Like you having a non-hormonal IUD, like it's still something that's stopping the natural process of a woman getting pregnant, right? Like every month. Like there is something going on. And granted, I don't know a ton of research. I do know that the non-hormonal copper IUD is like one of the best forms of birth control if you're going to use it, because the pills, the injections, I have never taken it, but I follow a ton of like holistic doctors, naturopaths, regular like MDs, gynecologists, and they just say that time and place for sure, and you have to do
Mm-hmm.
your research,
Mm-hmm.
but it can cause a lot of issues for women,
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of issues. And then it's kind of like this effect where like how you felt with the injection, then it starts to like affect your mood and you're crying for no reason. And then they're like, you go to back to the doctor and they're like, oh, well, now maybe you're, you have depression or anxiety. So here's this like SSRI or here's, this. And I want to put a disclaimer, you guys. I am not talking against the medical field. I think time and place for everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think they are, if you need it,
Mm-hmm.
totally. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
am not bashing like Western medicine here at all. I just think a lot of women are uninformed when it comes to their cycle,
Yeah.
birth control, what your body's even doing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
for me, even, I literally thought it was like, okay, you bleed and then you ovulate. That's it. But there's like 4 phases of your cycle, and during each phase, like different things are happening. And yeah, so I started to get into a lot of research, I guess, of my own, of like learning about the different phases of your menstrual cycle.
Yeah, I feel like one of your strengths is that you maybe it's because of what you've been through with
Yeah.
your health.
Yeah.
You really, and it's rare that someone has the patience or the like gusto to even do that amount of research, which is crazy because it's our bodies, but you really look into everything that you put on your skin, put in your body, like anything like that.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with you. I think birth control probably someone will probably watch this and be like, well, I've been on birth control for 10 years and I feel great. And I totally understand that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Um, but I think the thing is here that if you know that there's a potential that your quality of life or your mood could be affected when you start this, then you'll be aware if it does
Yeah.
that that could be the cause, and you don't feel so lost and scared when this change is happening and you're not sure why.
Yeah. And even this also goes for women also coming off the pill.
Mhm.
Because I know when women come off the pill, they start to experience all of these hormonal symptoms, like their gut goes out of whack, their skin flares up, they're breaking out, the mood, because you've been like suppressing your natural, I guess, cycle and like what your body wants to do every month with
Yeah.
a pill, which isn't,
Yeah.
I mean, preventative. Yes, like if that's what what you want to do, like by all means. So when you come off of it, now your body's like trying to regulate, and it's like, what is happening? What's going on?
Well,
And it's
sometimes
hard for a lot of
it'll
women.
overcorrect too, right?
Hmm.
Like it does always want to return to our natural state,
Totally.
but it's not like this like it I feel like there's a lot of overcorrection sometimes, and it's like you said, like, so I heard someone the other day say that they came off the pill and they lost a bunch of weight and now they can't
Yeah.
put weight back on.
Wow.
And I've
Wow.
never heard that before. I've heard a lot of weight gain
Weight gain.
coming on and off, but she cannot keep weight on, and it's like that's
Hmm.
kind of scary.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just something that's altering the natural state again. So it's like you have to like think of like what it's doing to you, and then when you come off of it, or even when you come off of it to try to, get pregnant, like what does that look like? So hopefully, like if you're listening to this and you're on birth control, this is not to scare you. This is not to be like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. I think it's super beneficial, but just to be aware, like you are, Mel, like I don't want to share too much of your personal uh, you know, business here, but
Oh no, we can
y-
talk about it because that was scaring me for a little bit, right?
yeah, yeah, because I mean, like you had this in for a decade, which is
Mhm.
like that's a long time
Which,
to like when you
listen,
think about it.
I want to share too, you guys. I From what I've been looking at, it's not really agreed upon that it should be in for that long.
Yeah.
Some people say because it's non-hormonal, it will stay effective for 10 years. Um, and that it's actually safer to keep it in than to remove it and to put it back.
Mm,
Um, Other people say that it should not be in your body for more than 5 years because this increases risk of infection,
yeah.
um, of it dislodging, of it moving, like
Mm,
migrating in your body, all these things. And I didn't really do any research. I just was like, oh, this is working and this feels fine for me. And I don't want to be pregnant. So my doctor says, like, I go and get my checkups,
yeah.
which used to be yearly. And now in Canada, it's actually, I think, 3 years, which is crazy to me.
Wow.
I feel like that's like another reason why I'm like, what's going on with like our healthcare system?
Yeah.
Because you should be getting checked yearly. Like,
I mean, yeah, a lot can
that's
change even in a year, let alone 3 years.
3 years.
That's
3 years.
crazy.
So I was getting checked yearly and then every 3 years, and they look at it, they make sure it's okay. And then my doctor was saying, okay, like if you're still not wanting to get pregnant, like it's better to leave this in. It's working for you. Um, and then what I was saying to court, okay, so I got cut off. Sorry guys, my internet. I don't know, it must have cut out. But I I started getting UTIs basically.
Yes. Yes. Like 2
And
years ago
two
is what you
years
were saying.
ago. Yeah.
Yes.
And I didn't really think much of it. It always happened after sex, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, or it happened kind of when Ian and I were having a lot, like multiple times a day. So I kind of was like, okay, this is just something that I need to be careful of. And I always go to the bathroom after, and like honestly, usually I shower, like everything. So I
Yeah.
kind of was like, there's really nothing else I can do to prevent this. I'm doing
Yeah.
everything that I can. And then they started to be more frequent and a lot more uncomfortable. And then actually this year, from January until now, which is what, April?
Yeah.
I've
End of
had
April.
I've had 3.
Yeah. Which is a lot for you.
That's it actually it started to really scare me because then like I started to think, what if I'm actually not having a UTI? The symptoms are showing up. What if I have like kidney issues? You know what I mean?
Mm,
Or I don't know.
yeah.
Bladder cancer or something. I was
Yeah.
getting really scared. And obviously I was talking to Courtney about it. And you said did you know or did you just think you knew?
So I have a close relative who was having issues with birth control. So she tried the IUD,
Hmm.
and it kind of took away some of like the psychological, like mental things, but
Hmm.
she was experiencing a lot of UTIs, chronic all the time. So Mel's like had these on and off for like 2 years, and we were talking about your IUD, and then I like just did a little Google search. Like Dr. Google is not the best, but I was like on some like credible like sites, and it was saying like if you guys don't know, like you have a vaginal microbiome, like your gut microbiome, like your your vagina has certain bacteria and all the things. And there were some sites saying that like if you leave in an IUD over a certain period of time, it can start to shift your like vaginal flora and bacteria, and also like uh, grow bacteria on the actual IUD. So I just sent it to Mel. I'm like, maybe this is something to look into. I also had someone close to me experience this, like, and then she's like, oh my God, I'm booking an appointment to get it out
I
like the
literally,
next week.
I emailed my doctor. I'm like, get this out. Like, I hate having UTIs. It ruins my whole, like, I don't know. I also really like having sex, and it was making me not want to do it because I didn't want to get a UTI.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
I want to, that's like a huge part of my happiness. And I was just like, I need that back.
Sex
I want to
life.
be,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Sorry. Like, it's very important
Yes. No,
to me
hey,
and my
I get it.
husband, for sure.
Yes.
So I started to like research more, and Court was saying it can affect the bacteria, and it's your microbiome is like so finely balanced. So if you don't have enough good bacteria to fight the bad bacteria, then infections can occur. Or there
Yes.
could be actually bacteria on the actual device that maybe when I do about a round of antibiotics, which honestly you don't want to do very much because that
No.
usually wipes out good bacteria too.
In your gut. Yeah.
Yeah. So you do your antibiotics, and then I would feel better. And maybe it was getting rid of some of the bacteria, but not all of it. And then it would happen
Hmm.
again. And all this, like, I just was like, I need to get um, this out. So
Yeah.
I had emailed my doctor when I got my third one, and I was like, I need to come in. I need you to look at me. I need you to talk to me because this isn't normal. And she didn't have an appointment for like 3 weeks. So I had to wait 3 weeks. And in the meantime, in Canada, you can go to the pharmacy, and the pharmacist can actually prescribe you antibiotics, which Ian was kind of like, I don't think you should take antibiotics again. But I actually couldn't bear the feeling. I waited about
Yeah.
3 days, and I was so uncomfortable. By the third day, I'm like, nope, this needs to be dealt with. It's also
Yeah.
dangerous if you leave,
Yeah.
I think, the infection without
Yeah.
treating it.
I think something can happen. I don't know if, yeah, UTI or like a yeast infection, like in the kidneys. Like
Yeah, because it
you
travels
can,
up.
yes, yes, which
And
can be dangerous. So
that
like,
yeah.
smart you took them.
Yeah, and I honestly, the first person I texted was you, and then
Yeah.
you said to just get a probiotic to try to kind of replenish
Yes.
the microbiome that probably is
Mm-hmm.
all out of whack because of the
Yeah.
antibiotics, the UTIs, the IUD. There's so many like
Yeah.
3-letter things. I kept like confusing them. I was like, wait, I have an IUD UTI. Like I was getting so confused, but I was
Yes,
just
yes, yes.
um and then I emailed my doctor, and the nurse can actually remove the IUD. So I was like, I need to get this out. And I actually got to see the nurse before that I got to see my doctor. So she just took
That's
it out.
so wild. And
I know.
well, like, granted, it's only been a week, right? Like,
Yeah.
just under, but you feel
Hmm.
fine. Like, you're fine. Like, nothing is like hurting, and like you're
Um
okay.
yeah, no, I feel totally fine. And I was crampy like the day of.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then my period came early.
Mm.
So it came like, it was only 2 days early, but it's apparently very common once you get it out for your period to like come immediately,
Oh, wow.
which like I was kind of at the end of my cycle anyways. But no, I feel totally normal, and I just feel like a lot, I don't know, I feel like safer now that it's out of
Yeah.
my body, you know?
Yeah. And okay, so this is kind of wild, you guys, like information about me, but like, knock on wood here. I I've never been on birth control.
Hmm.
Okay. Like I feel I definitely messed up my hormones when I was younger, in my late teens, early 20s, just from competing. Like I didn't have a period for like 5, 6 years. And that was just from like obviously very low estrogen, extremely low body fat, pushing my body to extremes, competing, dieting, all the things.
Well,
So I never had a period
you competed all year too, didn't you? Like you
like all
weren't,
year. And I,
yeah.
no, and like back then, like there wasn't like all this information on like proper rest, off season, taking time off, all the things.
Mm-hmm.
So like I literally probably got like max 10 pounds over stage weight, which is still
I wish.
disgustingly small. No, but girl, but I also had a moment in 2014 with like binge eating and all that. But
Yeah.
so that I guess that time I really got over, but it was always like I was always on plan. I was always dieting. There was never a proper break. So I never got a period.
I have a
So like
question.
for yeah.
When you did that like binging in 2014 and gained weight, did your
Yeah.
period come back?
I think it came back for like a month. Like a month and it was like 2 days
Like
and it was
irregular.
gone. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I know it was wild, but that was, I mean, I was still like 21 years old. So I don't even know if it was like a real bleed, like a
Yeah.
real or like, because usually when you gain weight, like your body or put on, healthy body fat, your body will regulate if you haven't had a period and it comes back. But I
Mm-hmm.
just always stayed so small, super unhealthy, didn't get a period. So I never like looked into like anything with birth control because I'm like, well, I don't need to. I don't obviously
You're not
ovulate.
ovulating. Yeah.
Nope, don't get a menstrual cycle. I don't bleed, haven't for years. All the things. So when I stopped competing because of my health, this is like what you said, Mel, when you're like, I feel like I do a lot of my own research now because of my previous health issues, like with my gut health and everything. And we can get into all that in like another episode.
Yeah.
But I kind of had to become my own best doctor slash
You're
health advocate
your own advocate.
because
Yeah.
yeah, because and I'm not saying I'm, educated like a doctor or anything like that. No, time and place for sure. And like we need doctors, we need all the things, pharmacists,
Mm-hmm.
nurses, everyone. So
Mm-hmm.
grateful. But I was just going to all these doctors and they're like, "Well, just take this pill." And I'm like, "Well, why?" And they really couldn't like tell me why. It's just like, "Well, take this pill, take this pill." And I just felt like it was a band-aid effect for a deeper rooted issue. It's like when women go to like their OBGYN and they're like, "Hey, I have acne." It's like, "Oh, well, just take birth control." Well, no, like why are you having acne? Like where's this is it it's a hormonal issue. There's
Mm-hmm.
something going on or it's a gut issue. Like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
acne stems from your gut health. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like we're just putting a band-aid on an issue and then when you stop it or it's just this whole cycle, right? So that's where I like did a lot of my own research. So when I stopped competing, I was like, okay, I'm not getting on birth control because I'm already dealing with all these fucking hormonal issues, my gut, my skin, my thyroid. I'm like, the last thing I want to do is like alter things when like my body's like trying to regulate and get balance itself. So I'm not going to go take a pill.
Mm-hmm.
So then and this was, I think I was like 25. And even when I was like 25, 26, I wasn't as educated as I am now, but I started to learn a little bit about the cycle and like what that looks like and when you can actually get pregnant and the different phases, excuse me, of your cycle, like your luteal, your follicular, your ovulatory, your menstrual. Like I didn't know we had 4 phases and what those look like. And like I've really got in tune with my body on like how I feel in each phase of my cycle, which is wild. Like the week before my period, I can be my mood can kind of shift a little. I'm more tired. I'm like craving more carbs or
Yeah.
chocolate. Like, but that's because like I need my progesterone is starting to drop. So like I actually your body like craves like carbs because it needs more progesterone, which is like all these things. And like I just started to really get into it and research it. So so I have not used birth control, but I am like on point with tracking my cycle. And I know things can happen and like whatever. And Christopher and I also, I don't even want to say this, but it's like, it's whatever. Like, this sounds like high school shit, but like, I don't ever let him do anything
Pull out method,
inside me.
baby.
Yeah. And I know that's like, oh my God, like, that you think that's going to work? There's pre cum, all the things. Yes, I understand. I understand. But I mean, it's worked for me for the past like 5 years. So I'm not really stressing. And you can really get really deep with it. Like I told Mel, because she's like, Court, like, what, like, how do I do this? And I'm like, "Ugh, okay, so you gotta like, I have a really good app. It's called My Flow or The Flow, In the Flow. And there's a book called In the Flow, and it's by, oh God, who's it by? Alysa Vita. It's amazing. And it talks about the different phases of your cycle, but she also has an app. So I use that app, and it is like spot on to the day of when I get my period. I track my symptoms in there. I track intercourse, all the things in this little app. And it's like really worked for me. And you can also even get like more advanced by like tracking your like your body temperature, like with a thermometer or like an Aura ring or something when you're ovulating. So it's
Yeah,
like a
because
whole thing.
your basal body temp goes up, right? When you're ovulating
Yes,
by
when you're
like two
ovulating.
degrees or something.
Yes, and like that is even a more diligent way to track when you are ovulating. When you take something out like that or stop the pill, there's like your body's going to have to adjust. And I know for a lot of people, like getting off the pill, it's like it's easier to like stay on because they don't want to deal with like the hormonal symptoms that come when you get off. So there's a book, and it's by Dr. Jolene Brighton. It's called Beyond the Pill, and she is an OBGYN. She's a doctor I follow on Instagram. She talks a lot about like hormonal health and birth control and, you know, sex and all the things, very geared towards women. And she has this book Beyond the Pill that I've never read it because I've never taken the pill, but I know so many women talk about it, and I follow her page, and like a lot of she has great educational stuff for women like on the pill or getting off or like what that looks like. But if you get off birth control, I just feel like you really kind of have to give it time and do your research, which a lot of people don't want to do. Like we like to like you start experiencing symptoms, and then like you go to your doctor and like, well, like, I don't know, you have acne again. Do you just want to get back on the pill? It's kind of like this never
Mm-hmm.
ending cycle
Mm-hmm.
where you have to let your body like regulate and like just give it time. Like I honestly just feel like my body got super regulated only like 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So it took like 2 solid years from like suppressing my hormones, crazy dieting, not getting a menstrual cycle, to like feel normal with my weight, with
Mm-hmm.
my skin, with my menstrual cycle, with my moods. And like I'm like very in tune with my body. So I can tell like if I'm not moving as much or I'm having more like sugary things, like my skin will maybe flare up, or like I'll get a little like that week before my period, I feel it more. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
very in tune with my body. Like maybe I'm more emotional or I cry at certain things, but I'm at a pretty good place now where I have it very steady and it's very like manageable and balanced. But it took
Well,
some time to get to
know
there.
you know what to expect now.
Yes.
So, like if
Yes.
you're having a period where you're have a few days where you feel depressed or you're very emotional or you are needy or something like that, instead of like beating yourself up and being like, why do I feel like this? Like what I mean, a lot of women do. I mean, people
Yeah.
in general do to themselves. You're just like, it's okay. Like I know what point I'm at in my cycle and where my hormones are, and that's why I'm here.
Yeah, totally. And it's so funny. I'll like what you just said, like I'll if I feel myself like getting like a little bit more emotional or I'm like extra bloated and I'm like, oh God, like what's kind of like happening? I literally it's like clockwork. I'm like, oh yeah, look at my app and I'm like, oh, 3 days until I bleed. I'm like, oh, that's why. So it's just like really getting in tune with your body, you guys. Like a, a lot, all of my own healing and gut health, fixing a lot of my gut health issues and my hormonal issues and my skin has come from my own research and my
Mm-hmm.
own due diligence of like sticking it through and really like taking the time to understand my body and giving myself grace and love, because sometimes it's frustrating when you're dealing with something. And I'm not saying you can't, like, go to a doctor or a functional medicine doctor. Like, I've worked with great people that have helped me during certain times to really like regulate things, or I've taken like thyroid medication because of my energy before, but now I'm like, I'm not on anything. I feel good. My weight's steady. I feel balanced energy. My menstrual cycle's good, but it's taken some time to get there. So just give yourself time and do your research, because you can find a lot of these answers just through really like getting in tune with yourself and like learning, honestly, learning, being your own
Yeah,
health advocate.
I'm gonna put the links for the books that Court said in
Yeah.
the description on YouTube. So if you want those, go there. But also, like, you're looking at, like, you sent me a peer-reviewed scientific article. You are reading books that are written by doctors, like OBGYNs with MDs.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we're not going to, like, Courtney's not going to like your favorite influencer and like taking medical advice from them.
No.
So obviously be aware of that too. It's funny when you're talking about like how long it took your body to like kind of regulate.
Yeah.
I kind of have always been, I guess, a little cocky about like me and like competing, and how like I always just like my period comes right back and then everything's fine and all this, you know what I mean? My digestion's always
Yeah.
fine. And I was actually I went to dinner with Leah on Friday. She's probably listening, so I want to say
Hmm.
hi, I love you. But
Hi, Leah.
she was talking about one of her girlfriends and how she's gained 10 pounds and it's like affecting her. And I was like, shit, tell her to come hang out with me. Like, I gained 50. Like I go up and down like crazy, and I'm like, I'm okay. You know what I mean? And
You're
she
like, I'm
kind of,
normal. Yeah.
yeah, she looked at me. She's like, honestly, I've never met or seen someone that fluctuates so much in their weight and so frequently. And I kind of was thinking about it when I got home, and I'm like, oh, it's one thing for me to think that I have like this like easy way to my hormones rebalance and all these things, but like I don't actually know that for sure. It's not the only marker of things rebalancing. It's not just like that you get your period back, that you bleed once a month.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I do struggle a lot with my weight and things like that. And mood and like all these things. And
Mm.
for sure, it's because the last, I don't know, 8 years of my life I've been putting my body through hell, realistically.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been
Yeah.
kind of, I've been basically giving my like system whiplash from like one
Yes.
second you're like eating and then one second you're not, one second you're training. I was not a natural athlete. So you're
Yeah.
taking PEDs, you're affecting your natural levels, you're shutting down your estrogen, and then it's just, it's so wild what
Yeah.
I did
No.
without like even thinking about it, you know?
Yeah. And I know in like episode 2, we talked about you walking away from the sport.
Mhm.
Like, it's not aligned with you anymore. It just
Mhm.
doesn't feel like it's something you want to do. If you haven't listened to episode 2, go watch it. It's a juicy one. But do you also feel another factor was, which I know we touched on, like you wanting to be a mom, and like, what is this doing to my body? Like, what I have altered and shifted and gone back and forth for like almost a decade of my life.
Yeah.
And now you're in your early 30s and you're thinking about motherhood and you're like, meh, it's not worth it. Like, was that a big
Yeah.
reason too? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It gets you kind of, the older you get, for me at least, the older I've gotten, I don't want to speak for everybody. The older I've gotten, I'm kind of more aware that you don't always get everything that you want. And just
Mm.
because I want to be a mom doesn't mean that I get to be a mom.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's kind of affecting the decisions that I'm making now, because
Yeah.
I I'm not entitled to that just because I want it. So I feel like it's my responsibility to make my environment and my body the best place possible for me to get what I want. That's all I can control. So that was a
Oh, I
huge
love that.
factor in my decision.
Yeah.
Listen, I also do want to say I listened to a podcast by John Jewett on Fuad's channel.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
he just posted it, and I think it's called Female Hormonal Competing or something like that. But he is extremely, extremely knowledgeable about stuff like this in terms of PED usage, and the way that he breaks it down and talks about it. It's everybody's different. People are at different stages in their lives. They, you know, have different values in terms of like what femininity means to you, whether it's being fertile or having a feminine voice or having a certain, face structure. All these things are something that need to be discussed with your coach when you're getting into competing in bodybuilding. And I would encourage
Mhm.
any girl listening to this that is thinking about competing or that is competing to go listen to that podcast, because it's just so, I wish it was around when I started. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's informative about the kind of drugs, what they do to your body, getting blood work, and making sure, like, using information to actually make decisions instead of being blind. It's just like
Yeah.
so different now.
Yeah.
When I first
Yeah.
started, it was not like that.
They
um
had no information on a lot of things,
yeah.
like on a lot, like the like Instagram and stuff. Like, not saying you should listen to every influencer. Like, even me and Mel, like, go talk to your doctor, talk to people that you trust. Like, we're sharing our personal journeys and experiences with this. But like, another thing, like you mentioned, Mel, is like, hey, like, I want to be a mom, but that doesn't mean I get to be a mom. It's like we sometimes take certain things with our health for granted.
Yeah.
Like, when I was like competing for years and always like shredded and lean and like could just, have my cheat meals and just get right back on plan and like never really have to worry about my hormones all that much, or
Yeah.
like really, or my gut health or my skin. I was just good. I was coasting. And then it's like boom, when all this like shit hit me, it's like, wow, now that's when I'm like, oh my God, like I'm looking into gut health. I'm looking into like skin. I'm looking into how to like balance this back and,
you're
all these things. But it's,
you're in reaction mode now, right? Like,
yeah,
now you're in
yeah, but
reaction mode, whereas now you as a woman, you think more in prevention mode.
yeah, yeah, and yes, exactly. And like I just feel like we take a lot of things for granted, whether that's like things with our health or like even just having like it's something small or good skin or like good digestion or can be
Hair.
fertile. Like, we just think, oh, well, it's not going to happen to me.
Hmm.
That's not going to happen to me. So if you're
Hmm.
someone who's listening to this who has like maybe a, I don't want to say bad relationship with food, but maybe not the best relationship with food, or who's competing, or who has certain health issues, like, or I'm saying who doesn't have any of these. Like, if you don't have these and you just think, oh, well, it's never going to happen. I'm not saying it is, but it's like, it's good to like learn about these kinds of things and get in tune with your body and learn about your body and how you can, like you said, work from this preventative place of just helping it, loving on it, and not thinking you're invincible and like, oh, nothing's gonna happen to me. No, that won't happen to me. Because like I never thought that would happen to me at like 24 with all the
don't
health things I went through.
don't you also find that the more in tune you are with your body and the better you treat it, the more healthy your relationship with yourself feels?
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah.
to
Yeah.
to me, like, I can look the exact same, you guys. I can be the same weight, the same body fat. And if I am not treating myself well, I will look in the mirror and I will think I look disgusting. If I'm treating myself well and I'm healthy and I feel good, I will look at myself in the mirror and I will say, wow, you're fucking hot. And
Yeah.
the difference is how I'm treating myself. It changes the perspective of what I see in the mirror. It's
Mm.
completely crazy. And I know it for a fact because I have a husband that tells me all the time, like, you look the same, like, you're beautiful, I love you. But if I had a bad day and I treated myself like shit, or I have a really bad, um, you were talking about relationship with food. I don't have a healthy relationship with food. I'm currently trying to heal it. I've been on a restrict and then a binge and a restrict and binge cycle of some sort for the last probably 8 years of my life. And
Yeah.
if I go too crazy one day, I will wake up the next day and my reality, what I see is different than what I saw the morning before. And it's not different. But because I treated myself so shittily and I'm so mad at myself, I'm like, I see it.
That is such a valid fucking point. It's huge. It's every day how you treat yourself. And this also, thank you for sharing that, Mel. I just want to say, because I know that's something that's,
There's a lot of shame around stuff like that, for
yeah,
sure. There's a
yeah,
massive amount of shame, especially for me at least. The older that I get, it's harder for me to even say it because I'm like, you're still dealing with this. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, yeah,
you're 32 years old. Your life is I love my life so much. Like I'm so happy and you're still like it's a bit shameful, but the more that I acknowledge that it's exists and the more that I talk about it, the easier it feels to like move on from it, almost, as weird as that
yeah.
is.
Like the less power it has. Like you're just kind of like bringing it to light and it's not this like hidden thing that you're like so shameful that it's in the corner and you're like, oh my God, it can never, you're very open, and I know it still feels a bit shameful and like, oh God, like when is this going to stop? But I
Mhm.
think just bringing it to light, it loses less of its hold
Power.
power on you. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
But I appreciate you sharing that. But I wanted to share this too, like how Mel was saying how she like she could look the exact same, but it's like how she's treating herself, like what how how what she's putting in her body, how she's doing her daily, whatever it is that makes her feel good, movements, that whatever.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
also think, and I know you're going to agree with this. This goes hand in hand with how we speak to ourselves and how we
Mhm.
talk to ourselves. And I have like the most perfect example of this. And it literally was last night. I swear to God, we always have these things. And it was like, it like happens. And then I'm like, oh my God, we have to talk about this. I wasn't even planning on talking about this, but this is huge. So last night, it's like 4. I had a shitty night's sleep the night before. I'm I don't wanna work out, but I'm like, "All right, I'm not gonna work out today because 'cause I'm flying." I'm like, "Let's just get your ass in there. Just go train." But I had this really, like, nasty feel about going to work out. I just didn't want to. I was tired. I'm like, "Fuck, I didn't sleep well." Didn't wanna do it. Christopher was also training, and, he was training legs, and I was training legs. And he's like, "Come on." Like, and we don't train together, you guys. Like Melissa and Ian are like they're all over each other, like training. She's helping him, he's helping her. Me and Chris are like, get away from me. We're on opposite side of the gyms. Don't tell me what to do. No, like it's just no, we don't do it. But yesterday he could tell I felt like kind of like ugh, like my energy was down, and he's like, come on, like come. Oh, he was doing a hack squat. He's like, come over on the leg press. I'll help you with like your some tempo, like movement, going slow, controlling the weight, and I'll kind of like help train you. And I
I
was like,
love
oh
him
God,
so much. He's so
I know.
cute. I
I'm
miss
like,
him.
okay, fine, like I'll do it. And I was in like a meh mood, like and just like
Yeah.
my attitude, like right from when I walked in the gym.
Yeah.
And, I'm pushing myself, like, I didn't want to, like, go in and lift heavy, and this is so funny too because it also goes back to when you were telling like, when we were talking on the last podcast of you being like, "What's your goal right now?" I'm like, "I don't know." And, like,
I
this is
kind
where
of
I need to
wanted
get
to call
clear.
I kind
You
of
should
wanted
have.
to call you out, but
You should have.
you didn't feel like you wanted me to. Like I don't think you wanted me to. You were kind of just like
Yeah.
a bit resistant and I was like, "Oh, she'll get there." You know what I mean?
Yeah. But no, I can appreciate hearing it now. Like, I
Yeah.
can. Like, I don't mind being called out on shit. I guess I was like really unclear with like what my goal was. So I'm just kind
Yeah.
of, ugh, I don't know.
Yeah.
So he's putting on like more weight on the leg press and I like don't want to do it. It's like heavy and I'm just like, oh God, okay, whatever. But I'm doing it. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, I'm getting through, but I'm like getting kind of like frustrated, even though I'm like pushing through, controlling, like I'm doing it. And he's like, all
Okay,
right,
you
move on to
guys,
squats.
I have to say something about Courtney. I don't even know how she has any muscle on her, and she has a lot. She really does. Because this girl she doesn't like it to be hard. And like the main thing for building muscle is that it has to be fucking
Yeah.
hard. And she'll be in the gym, and if it's hard, she gets mad at herself. She moves the weight pretty
Yeah.
easily, but then she's mad at herself. She's like, "Oh, that was so hard." And every time I train with her, I probably say it's supposed to be hard
Yes.
100
Yes.
times.
And
I'm like,
here's the thing, it's not that I don't like pushing the weight. I feel like before
no,
I
you
do
feel
it,
like a failure, I feel.
yes, I feel like I can't do it. Like he put on all these like plates on the leg press, like 4 a side, and I'm like, this is really heavy for me. I usually don't do this. I stick it at my solid 2. But I'm like, okay, to change, you have to challenge yourself. All the things. These are things I know. And like you just said, Mel, there's been so many times where we train together, and you're like, it's supposed to be hard. I can't remember. Like you said that so many times to me, and I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'll do it, but I like get frustrated. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why or where this is coming from. Like I don't. So I'm not going to pretend I have all the answers right now, but anyways, we move on to the squats. I'm doing the squats. He's like, "All right, like, there was a plate on." He's like, "Let's take off the 25 and now add another plate." So I have 2 plates. And this is on the little like pendulum. I'm not free. I'm not like back squatting. This is on like the what is it called? Like the pendulum.
It's called the
I don't.
pendulum, but
Yeah.
it's probably the closest machine that mimics an actual squat motion, like free squat motion, don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say for sure. I'm dropping straight down, whatever.
Yeah.
So go heavy, take off the weight. I'm like, all right, I'm dropping the weight back down. Like I felt like I was losing a little bit of like control. And he's like, okay, that's fine. He's like, but you're doing good. You're doing great. Like your tempo is awesome. Whatever, whatever. And I got out of the last rep, and I like was like kind of by the machine. I was like, I feel like I'm gonna cry right now. He's like, "Correct, you guys, I'm not before my period. I'm not just emotionally like I felt like this urge to cry. I'm like, I don't know why I feel like crying. Like I it just was like it was this like weird feeling. And then Christopher goes, he's like, well, don't you think a lot of your like negative self-talk and your energy before you even come in here is so low that it just creates this vibe for the workout that is also low. Like he's like, you're not like fucking up or doing anything wrong, or like you're strong, like you're pushing through the weight, you're doing like you're taking direction right now. But how I talk to myself is sometimes so nasty, and so hard on myself that it kind of just it just makes the environment, not like with Christopher, but like my training session, I could have went in with like, hey, I get to like move this weight, and I get to like push myself and try really hard. I have an awesome partner giving me help, and but I was so like I was beating myself up through it, like, oh, that was fucking shitty. I only got 8 or blah 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 blah. My form sucked on the last one. It was just so negative that it made my workout feel negative. It made me emotional. It made and I was doing good. I don't know if that even makes sense. Does that make sense, Mel? Kind of
Well,
like
what
the energy I was giving myself was just really low. And
there's
he's like,
something about you that I feel like you only feel worthy when like everything is perfect. You know what I mean? And I do think that translates a lot into your training. So
yeah,
like I honestly feel like a very powerful thing for you physically and emotionally and mentally is that if you actually start to train until failure and you start to do like a progressive overload where you're like maybe you do only get 6 reps but your
yeah,
weight was heavier than the last week, and like you need to start to be okay with that because like
yeah,
honestly that's what weight training is really all about. But you have a really really hard time not just like succeeding at something but like nailing it perfectly,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's a lot of pressure. So like even for you to like go to the gym, okay? You really don't want to go to the gym, but you're going to go anyways. You're almost already like beating yourself up because you know
yeah,
you're not going to have a good workout because you don't really want to be there. Whereas like a non-perfectionist might be like, okay, for me, example, I'd be like, okay, like I wasn't as strong, probably because I am a bit tired and I'm not really in that good a mood, but I'm actually proud of myself for going when I didn't want to.
Yeah.
Whereas you don't really have that like grace with yourself ever.
No, it's kind of like, uh, I don't want to like say an all or nothing, but like if I go into the gym, like I expect to have like a phenomenal workout, uh, be very like it's intense, I'm strong, and if I'm not or I'm feeling tired or whatever, I'm just kind of like, ugh, I take it like, ugh, I'm just I didn't show
It's
up how I
nothing.
wanted.
It's
And yeah, I just
worthless.
take it as exactly. And it's so funny because I preach like, you got to start. The hardest part is starting and like showing up even on the bad days. And but it was a big moment for me last night because I'm like, wow, like you're right. I do at times talk to myself pretty pretty hard on myself. Like and just having him kind of like call me out and being like, hey, like, look at the energy you already brought in before you even started. Then look at you starting. Like, you're doing it, but you're still like, ugh, it's not good enough. Oh, God, it's like, it could be better. And I'm like, you're right. You're right. So this plays into everything in life from, you know, how you treat yourself on a, like a physical standpoint with like nutrition and movement and making, good choices and surrounding yourself with people that bring you up and not bring you down. But this also goes hand in hand with like how you speak to yourself because you can do all that right, but if you not even just not love yourself, if you don't have a good attitude towards the things you're doing or have acceptance for like, hey, I could, like you said, Mel, like I could look the same as I like did the day before as I do now, but like how I'm the foods I'm putting in my body or whatever, if you don't have some like level of acceptance and grace and truly love, it doesn't really matter
No,
if
it
you
doesn't.
you
You
know
also aren't going to see things accurately. You know what I
yes.
mean?
Yes.
Like you're always going to be grasping at things that might not even be what you need or
Yeah.
what's right because you're not even really seeing yourself fully. And like I've I've just started to kind of look at myself as who I really am and accept all parts of myself. And before it was very like there was always something to be fixed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe there is something that I'm working on, but that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with me. And
No.
when I was always trying to fix something, there was like I would like it's like the Band-Aid thing with the doctors we were talking about. I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna prep and that's gonna fix my binge eating and my like body image issues. Or even something as simple as like, well, my stomach's hurting, so I'm going to stop eating dairy because that's what everybody's doing.
Yeah.
And now that I'm like more in tune with myself, I'm like, well, no, my stomach's hurting because I like overate and I like eating dairy and it doesn't hurt me, so I can eat cheese. It's not like this
Yes.
unhealthy thing that because no one, you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
you start to like just copy other people's things that they're doing thinking that it's going to like help you, but you're not even really aware of what's actually going on with you. And
Yeah.
like
Oh, so good.
I feel like if you actually start to become aware and like for some people it's how you speak to yourself and that's going to affect how you show up at the gym or how you show up for
Mm.
your partner or because you're like Courtney's never going to be the type of person that is like mean. But you can tell that when you get like in your head about yourself or you're mean to yourself, you're almost like more distant from everybody.
Yeah. My energy is like,
Yeah.
I'm never gonna be mean, but yeah, it's gonna be like more low key when I'm not really like a low key energy type of gal.
No,
Yeah.
when Courtney's in her natural healthy state, she's very like bubbly, extroverted, happy, affectionate, like all these things. And I think it's really important for everyone to become aware of that. You know what I mean? Even Ian the
Yeah.
other day, he was like, my natural state is like a very extroverted person. Like when I'm good, I want to go out. I want to see people. I want to laugh. I want to do all these things. So when that's now not what he's asking for and he's kind of isolating, well, now he can dig because he knows something is wrong.
Yes.
And you have to be like so aware of like, yeah, the physical, but also the mental. And like, I don't know, it's just so important. And you need to be able to accept so you can see, so you can learn, and so you can kind of be. And the more that you do that, I feel like you just like do love yourself. Cause like
Yeah.
we're not like, we are ourselves. I feel like we're like in our natural state. We're supposed to think that we're the best, like, because that's what we are. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'm
Yeah.
not supposed to yearn for somebody else or want to look like someone else or want to live like someone else. Like, no, like I was born here and this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. No, that's good.
It's
That's really
crazy.
good.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Living for yourself and just understanding that like you are already whole and you are already enough,
Mhm, mhm.
and there's nothing that you know, you can be aware of things to, like, yes, like you said, grow and learn and shift, and hey, this is a habit I don't want to necessarily have anymore or whatever, but really like knowing that you are whole just as you are, and you don't need to be and act or do or see things like anyone else. You just have to just be the best version for you, no one
Mhm,
else but you.
mhm.
So yeah, it's good.
I can't believe we started talking about like birth control and UTIs and now we're here.
I know. It's good though, but it's a full circle thing. It's just like, I don't know, we just got, yeah, we all just need to like really take a step back and just be kind and show up to just for us being the best versions of us. Like, and if birth control works for you, hey, girl, we are not shaming birth control. You could take your birth control, and but just about being aware of certain
Mhm,
things,
mhm.
you know, physical, mental, all the things.
I really don't know moving forward though how I'm not going to get pregnant.
You have to be like, this is why I asked, like, I'm like, are when you told me about you got it taken out, I'm like, well, did they say like, are you gonna have a normal cycle? Like, you know, you bled right
Well,
away. Is that
no,
considered a real period?
she took it out and she said, "So, like you're fertile." She was like, "Just so you know, this is out. So like if you have sex, you're fertile, you potentially will get pregnant." That's what she said. She also
Yeah.
said things may be irregular for a while, but no, now I'm like in a position where I'm like, "Oh my god, like I'm
You
not
just have
going to
to be
use
super cautious.
I'm not going to use a condom with my husband. Like that's weird to me. I don't
Well, just
know."
make sure like nothing happens inside of you. I know if everyone's gonna attack me, I know things can happen before, and like I do know I'm not irresponsible. But yeah, just, and you know what, Mel? If it happens, it happens. You're not trying to make it happen, but like it's, yeah.
It's also okay if it does, yeah.
Yeah.
I also wanted to ask, what's that book that you were reading about fasting for your cycle? Is that
Oh,
what it's called?
yes. This is another doctor, you guys.
Mhm.
Her name is Dr. Mindy Pelz. We'll put these three books below.
Mhm.
Um, In the Flow, Beyond the Pill, and this last one is Fast Like a Girl.
Mhm.
And it talks about, and I know there's a lot of like misinformation, like a lot of the fasting research is done on men. It's done on men, and men have like the same hormonal 24-hour clock, you
Mhm.
know, from like puberty until the day they die.
Yeah.
Like it's, they have certain peaks of testosterone, it falls, and it's like that every single day. Women, we have these four different phases. So there's different ways to, as this doctor explains, there's different ways to eat and when you should not fast. And then there's different ways to fast to optimize certain hormones depending on where you're at in your cycle. And it's like, it's an amazing, I just listened to it on audio book or whatever. Super easy listen. It's explained in a way that's like digestible. We, you know, not in like crazy doctor lingo where you can't understand. um and it breaks it down. Like that's where I learned like, oh, there's a reason your body is craving more rest and like carbohydrates the week before. And that goes back to like progesterone, like I said earlier. And that's something this doctor like talks about and like taught me. That's like, it's there's your body gives signals and clues, and it's just about like tapping into those and not like shaming yourself for those. Or if you need to take more rest because it's the week before your cycle and your like energy is dipped, and not necessarily like being like, no, what the F's wrong with you? Like, push through, go do a hard workout. Like, your body's asking, like, hey, like, things are dipping. My hormones are, going down. Like, I need to just chill. So she talks about, eating in certain phases, fasting, not like day fasting. She does talk about those too, like on the rare occasion, but intermittent fasting, depending on where you're at. So it's a great listen. Honestly, she talks about like 17-hour fast.
Yeah.
Like overnight, you guys, like while you're sleeping, so say you sleep for 8 hours, I don't know, 9, and then the rest is like, then you eat the next day at like 12, 1. It all depends on like when you stop eating, when you sleep, when you wake.
Mhm.
And hey, if you're starving, listen to your body, eat
Mhm.
then, like
Yeah.
1000%. You don't
Yeah.
need to just like fit a mold because it's what I'm saying or a doctor saying or
No.
whatever. But she does talk a lot about fasting in when you're bleeding because it's your body kind of cleaning things up. Like
Yeah.
hormonally, like you're in this little cleanup. Like,
Yeah, I always naturally eat a lot more the week before.
mm-hmm.
Like I'm snacking way more just because I want to, and then usually when I have my actual period, I eat like a bird.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like really
And,
it's extremely
and I
fascinating.
feel like very fit like when
Yeah.
I
When
work
you get
out.
it, when
Yeah.
you bleed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the week before where I'm honestly like,
Oh, a dead person.
yeah, I'm really tired. I'm kind of bloated a little bit. It's yeah, it's and then like ovulation. She talks about like that is when you want to feast when you're ovulating. That is when you're strong. That is when all your sex hormones, your progesterone, your estrogen, your testosterone are like on the rise. Like they're that's like fertile time. Like
Mhm.
you wanna like
Make
hump like a little
babies.
bunny, like make babies and eat all the food and go work out really hard or go do a crazy hit workout. Like that is the time during ovulation. Um, but yeah, it's like a great, super easy listen, you guys. Highly recommend. And I think she has like a paperback too. But I just listened on Audible. But it was good. It was really interesting. I took like a bunch of notes. Maybe I'll share them. Well, I don't need to share them now, but I'll share them with you.
Yeah, you need
Have
to
like
tell me.
a full note. Like I was taking notes like during
Yeah,
when I was
well, you
listening.
guys comment if you're interested in like going over that because we can also do an episode about fasting because it's controversial and
It is.
I don't want to like tell anyone what to do. who who did an interview the other day? I think it was Gwyneth Paltrow. She did an interview about
Oh,
and then she got fucking ripped apart.
she got slammed. Yeah, she got slammed. Yeah, and it
Yeah,
was
but
kind of taken out of context. Like I know her doctor. Her doctor is Dr. Will Cole. Like
yeah.
I've DM'd with him multiple times. Like
Yeah.
I've reached out to him with certain things for Christopher's autoimmune.
Yeah.
Um he's great. Like follow each other on Instagram. Super nice guy. And I listened to that and he's like, "Look, it was taken like very out of context. Like it was like she gave a day of eating and it was like maybe like a 500 calorie day of eating, but he's like, she doesn't do that all the time. And like, she got ripped apart though. I did feel bad.
I
So like,
know. So listen, like I don't know. Don't like get
disclaimer.
yeah,
Yeah, you guys, like,
if we're putting ourselves out there and talking about what we like to do or what we've researched and what we find works best for us, that is not in any means, first of all, we're putting that out there to share with you guys because we love you and we think that maybe you guys give a shit. And second of all, we don't want to be ripped apart for doing that.
no, no, no,
So
no, no. And
so
yeah,
if we do an episode about fasting, it's we'll just talk about we can talk about that book and we can talk about our experience fasting. And
yeah,
it's also like, I think such a big thing about like full day of eating things is that you need to be aware that like most people don't eat the same thing every day. So,
Yeah.
like, if one day Gwyneth Paltrow ate 500 calories, she probably the next day was ravenous and probably ate close to 2,500.
Yep.
And for me, my days look very different. I would say my weeks are probably very consistent, especially when I'm like, feeling good and in a good place with my eating. But my days are very different depending
Mm-hmm.
on my appetite, my
Yeah.
cycle, my activity, what if I was busy that day, like my sleep, like a lot of stuff. So
Yeah.
I think that's like really important with these like full day of eating things that are like so trendy now on social media that like
So trendy.
it's not people don't eat the same thing every day. The same
No,
amounts
and
every day.
100%. And like, listen, I follow a lot of different people. Like, I follow some girls who are like, you should never fast. It
Mhm.
is awful. It will destroy your adrenal glands. It's so bad. It fucks up your blood sugar. Awful, 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 awful. Yeah, I mean, sure. If that works for them, like to never do that, and they need to wake up right, and eat a huge breakfast right when they
Mhm.
wake up, and that works, great, do it.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm nothing against it. I would never be like, well, the benefits of fasting. Like, I would never try
No.
to, get in the way of how if someone feels a certain way with doing something and it works for them, then great, do it. So this is not Mel and I trying to tell you what to do. We are literally just sharing personal things that work for us and what we like and what we love to maybe give you like some different insight. I think a big thing with like growth is being able to take different information and digest it and implement and see if it works for you or
Mhm.
don't implement. And if you don't agree with it, oh,
Mhm.
no, I never want to do that. Okay, great, don't. Like, I
Mhm.
never want to wake up at 7:30 and eat a huge breakfast. I am
Mhm.
not hungry. I
Mhm.
do not care to eat a breakfast that early. I don't. I like to have my little drink, go on a walk, come back, maybe train sometimes, and then I'll eat. Like, it
Mhm.
depends. It really,
Mhm.
it just depends. So even certain influencers, and I've posted full days of eating before, like there's been full days of eating where I look back to where I was eating a lot of certain foods like oatmeal and tons of fruit. I'm not really eating a lot of that right now. Like,
Well,
it just depends.
let's be honest. A lot of people when they do their full day of eating too,
Post
it's
way too much.
well, they're gonna I'm not trying to call anybody out on this, but they might not be very accurate. They also might have picked a perfect day. They're now
Yeah.
very aware that they're posting today. So everything's going to be healthy. Everything's going to be aesthetic. They're probably too scared to post if they eat sub 1,000 calories, which
Yeah.
some people do.
Yeah.
And because we're scared of being attacked on the internet. So just be aware. And I really vibe with what you said about taking in information, digesting it, and then choosing what you're going to use and choosing what you're
Yeah.
not. And it's also really just fascinating to learn about different things. That doesn't mean you
Oh
have to
man.
do them, but it's like it's
No.
interesting, you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's huge for me. Like, I listen to so many different people, scientists, regular influencers,
Mhm.
like doctors.
Mhm.
A lot of people believe a lot of different things. You have doctors, highly educated people. One believes keto, one believes
Yep.
fasting, one believes
Vegan,
vegan. Yeah, exactly. One believes
meat,
Mediterranean,
carnivore. Mhm.
meat, exactly. There's so many different things out there, you guys. Like,
Mhm.
this is where this comes back. This is like a full circle thing. This comes back to listening to your body, figuring out what works for you, whether that's like, hey, I'm getting a lot of UTIs, maybe something's going on here. Like, get in tune with it. This doesn't feel right. Let's take it out and adjust. Like, let's try this way of eating. Let's try this way of training. Adjust, pivot. There's nothing wrong with changing your mind either. Or if you did something before and it doesn't work now, to shift. Like,
Yeah.
that's a beautiful thing in life. So
Yeah.
get in
I
tune
love
with
that.
yourself, you guys. Listen to yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
I
have the
love that.
power.
The next time you see me, it will be here with Ian, and then you'll have to wait um another week to see Court, but then she can tell us all about her trip and all about her experience
Yes, you
in
guys.
these new places. So I'm excited.
You should see the shit I'm packing. Supplements. Or like, in case something happens, get like some diarrhea. Gotta.
You're gonna have to.
I'll come back and share with you guys. I'll share my full experience.
Yeah, she's gonna talk about her worms. Her parasites.
Oh yeah, we have to talk about the parasites.
Yes.
You guys, I've done like parasite cleanse. This is shit I don't share on Instagram. And like I have pictures of the worms. Like we're gonna go there.
We
yet.
can't post the
I don't
picture.
wanna
We're gonna
scare you
get
guys
taken
away.
down.
Yeah, no, you don't want to see that either. That's like pretty
No.
fucked up. Excuse my language, but like we don't know.
Oh, we love when Courtney drops an F-bomb. Okay, I'm so excited. I'm sure you guys are now too. And safe travels.
Thanks, babe. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. I have like 3 hours to like throw stuff in a bag and giddy up. I
Okay.
also have self tanner on. I need to go like shower off. I'm
Yeah, you
disgusting.
go and just
Smell.
like time manage a
Okay.
little bit, you know? You'll be fine.
Yeah. I got it. All right. So next time you guys see me, I'll be coming back. Then you'll see Mel and Ian, and then we'll get back into it.
Yeah.
So
we can
comment
talk
below on
about
topics, you guys. Or leave us a review if you like the pod. Yeah.
5 stars.
These are all the things we need to say.
I know.
Subscribe, 5 stars, all the things. Only if
We'll
you guys like us, which
we'll figure it out
you
one
like
day.
too,
It's not
so.
it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I love you. We all love you. Tell Christopher I love him. Travel safe, and we will see you when you're back.